Friends of NRA is your chance to support our Second Amendment rights and preserve America's hunting traditions. Join Friends of NRA at one of our 600 exciting events nationwide. From games to auctions and exclusive firearms, Friends of NRA events are your chance to support a cause you care about while having a great time with patriots in your community. Whether you're a seasoned shooter, an avid hunter or outdoorsman, or passionate about freedom, there's a place for you within Friends of NRA. Visit friendsofnra.org to find an event near you. Stand up for freedom with the Friends of NRA.
Don't miss out on the last few weeks of football action with Prize Picks, the best place to win cash while watching the playoffs. The app is simple. Pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Download the Prize Picks Daily Fantasy Sports app today and use code FIELD and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code FIELD on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game. Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
All right, welcome back to the Survival and Basic Badass Podcast with Kevin and Chuck. Today, we're going to talk about tools. There are a lot of tools that can actually be like a game changer with doing a job, where buying the right equipment can make a big difference on your time, your effort, where it pays for itself. Now, obviously, everything is kind of relative, right? If you have a outside job on your homestead, or maybe you're not homesteading, maybe you're just, a regular person. If you're at work all the time, then spending money on a tool that's going to save you time has a lot more value than if you're somebody who's trying to live off the land and all you have is time and no way to get extra cash.
Right.
So it is all about balancing. All right, is this going to pay for what I need? If you have extra time and you're sitting around drinking coffee all morning, which living your best life, then and vodka all night or something, whiskey, I guess would be a little more manly, but but then it matters and it affects how you spend your money. But what we're going to do is kind of lay out a lot of the tools that have been game changers for me and Kevin as far as time and as far as, cutting down the effort that you have to put forth and the results that you end up getting. There's a lot of carpentry tools that end up being really cool. A lot of gardening tools that can make your production, 1,000 times better, and it all matters. So I think really it comes down to, there are certain basic tools that everybody should have in life that just kind of start out. Like maybe you give to the 18-year-old when they're ready to move out. I guess in the modern world, 18-year-olds don't move out. Is that not a thing? It's more like 27 or 42 or whenever people move out, they should get their own tools and
right.
Kind of
and everybody knows, you can't, the full set of tools is not something you go out and buy everything, it's something you collect over time.
Yeah.
Right. But there are some basics that you should have, you should be able to fill up a tool belt, with the basic hand tools. What is that? Hammer, speed square, nail puller.
Speed square. Right.
Yeah. I use that speed square a lot, man.
Speed square is something people really overlook. Maybe a level too. You ever notice when you go to the hardware store, you got it when you buy a level? I always set it on the shelf and I put it one way and I put it the other way.
Right.
And you can go through 20 of the same level, same out
model.
Of the same box, right? Yeah. And you set them all on there and they're all different. And you finally get one that works. And you're like,
So the shelf doesn't have to be level. I think what Chuck is saying
is right.
It has to be, when you turn it around, it has to read the same as it was the other direction.
Spot. Yeah.
Right.
And then it turns out I now know why my dad was always, you dropped the level. No,
Yeah, exactly. Because now you have a pry bar. That's all that level is good for.
Or when I was using it as the pry bar was also, a negative. So
right. They used to call that a whiskey stick, because it used to be whiskey in there so it didn't freeze.
That's the trick?
Yeah, that used to be the liquid they would have in there.
I have not heard that. I guess it could freeze. I haven't really considered it. Now it's probably radiator fluid. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know what they have in there now.
So I can drink it. Yeah. Now, and the next thing would be like a basic socket set, right? For your man tools. I think like a solid tool bag. I always like, and it could be because I'm an electrician, but I like the electrician bag, which is like that little square tote that's just kind of open.
Mhm.
You know, if you were on a real budget, it could be the 5-gallon bucket, you know,
Yep.
and they have those insert bags that you can put in there for pretty cheap at like Home Depot.
Yeah, I
or whatever.
actually switched over to I was a carpenter working as a carpenter, and I switched over to an electrician tool belt because it just has so many more pockets, you know. But you know, the basics that every man should have, you know, are pretty straightforward when it comes to that sort of stuff. And you know, ratchet set, wrench set, crescent wrench. That's an adjustable wrench. You're not really supposed to use those for anything, but they come in pretty handy.
They're pretty handy. Yeah.
Pipe wrench is an important little thing for your.
I think definitely if you get to homesteader level, pipe wrench is huge. Like I have like 4 sizes. I think I have 2 that are like expensive quality pipe wrenches. And then I have like a bunch of sets that I got at Tractor Supply that are like all kinds of varying sizes that seem to pay off pretty good. Crescent wrench, you probably want one good quality one is way better than a bunch of varying sizes that are junk. A pipe, I feel like you can get away with a little less quality and it'll still kind of do the job.
Yeah.
Channel locks, spend the money. Buy the $14 to $20 pair instead of the $7 pair. Just drop that one. Or you might just buy the other one 15 times. You know, you could go either way. Or you could be my dad, the shop teacher, and just use the same $4 pair for the rest of your life. You know, you do what you do you.
Yeah, so I mean those are some good basic tools. When it gets into power tools, you really want to pay attention to what you're getting. You know what I mean? Usually the name brand stuff is you're going to spend the right amount of money and get the right amount of quality. Skill saw, that's
have you
a big
priced
deal.
them out low lately? It's getting crazy.
Yeah. Now I got off pretty easy with a DeWalt skill saw.
Yeah.
It's about almost 20 years old. It's still running, and I actually got it from a pawn shop, and I haggled with the guy and got it for $25.
Yeah.
Which, you know, it's definitely like lasted its
and
made
now,
its money
now
back,
you can
know?
get the made China saw for $45 maybe on Amazon or something, but
Temu.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you know my tools. All right.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Like I have I think essentials, like as you start to go into manhood, that tool bag, the kind of mechanic bag is like your starter kit, you know, with a flat and Phillips screwdriver and the other tools we mentioned. And I got to say, some kind of socket set, even if it's like the minimal, you know, where you have like 7-8 different metrics, 7-8 different SAE, and then call it good. That's your reasonable like starter. I'm a homeowner. I'm just moving out. Get there. All right, cool. Now, phase 2, I'm starting to do repairs around my home or repairs around the homestead. Now, like Kevin said, skill saw, pipe wrenches. Then we're moving into a table saw and a chop saw. Like those 3, they all, and like you said, quality does kind of matter with those. One of the things I've learned along the way is don't throw out all the guards and the safeties. Like you're like, that's just in my way.
Right.
And then later on, as you start whipping boards at your face, you're kind of like, maybe I should have kept that one.
Yeah.
That one would have been good. So I'm just saying that's something to keep in mind. Like, I know we don't like to keep junk. Like I open the box and I'm like, all right, I'm going to use this part and this part, the rest of it, some big stand, it becomes a table. And
you know that
I don't need it.
You know that, that guard that's on the skill saw, you know, that keeps you from cutting your fingers off. I was working with a guy that wired that up in the up position with a piece of wire.
I haven't gone
and
that
I was like, that's the guy I'm not working with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I haven't gone that far.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep in mind. I don't know. So basically those are my woodworking go-to.
Yeah.
I mean,
Now, just as
go ahead.
honorable mention, you should have a handsaw, a quality handsaw. It comes up more often than you would think.
And a hacksaw.
And
Gotta cut
hacksaw.
the pipes
Right.
every now and again.
Mm-hmm.
You know how it is.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it. And then, all right, then we go into the next level where you might like start doing repairs even more so around your house, where you're buying that plunge cutter, or they call it an oscillating tool,
Mm-hmm.
where you can get the corners. Dude, that thing is a game changer. We didn't have that when we were growing up.
Yep.
And like the last 10 years or so, that's been a thing. And that thing is like, oh my God, I use it so often for impossible, it just is great. And the same thing, it'll cut metal, you just got to buy the right blades.
Right.
And my experience with that, buy the quality tool, although I've never had one that I use a lot last more than a year.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I use it a lot,
Yeah.
if I just set it on the shelf, I get about 5 years out of it. Kind of, but yeah, so they're great. Buy the quality tool, Porter cable or something like that, but then you can buy the cheap blades from like Amazon, because like blades are like, I don't know, like $8 each one, and then you go on Amazon and it's like 37 for $8, because you can just burn through them. Duct tape and coat hangers might also be good. Super glue.
I knew a guy that it was actually the same guy that had that guard wired back that used the super glue to close up the wound when he ran the saw across the back of his hand. So
that's what you need, the super glue.
Yeah.
Right. The other thing, like as you get more advanced, like the clamps, the wood clamps for putting stuff together, huge. But all right, let's kind of any more woodworking tools like that kind of thing?
Well, you didn't touch on screw gun, or it's a drill, whatever it is.
Yes.
Those are great because they're battery powered. The ones that are, some of them are corded drills, obviously. Battery powered ones though are great because even if the power goes out and you have a generator, you can charge it back up. But you can keep that. You should be keeping it charged up. You should be able to take that. I broke my own rule the other day. I pulled out my screw gun and went to go put a screw in, and it got halfway in and died on me. And I was kicking myself in the ass because why the hell would I have a battery that's dead in the, you know what I mean? It should be anytime you use it, you should be charging the other battery up,
Exactly. I have had now, in a perfect world, you don't leave your batteries out in the cold, like in the shed or in your truck or whatever. But I got to say the lithium ion are a lot better than the older versions we used to have, where you really couldn't get away with the cold. Like you left it out in, below 30 and it was done. Now they're pretty good, but it still doesn't help things. Right. You want to, if you can, stick with the same brand for everything. And that, what I mean is the interchangeable batteries.
Right.
That's awesome. Like, I believe it or not, I've been using Milwaukee. I think they're like M12 batteries or whatever, but I probably have 20 of these batteries and I just keep them all charged up and I can go forever.
Yeah. You know what I've noticed though, if you go online to just buy a battery, it's almost as expensive as buying a tool. So you might as well just get a new type of, different tool, but same battery and buy replacement batteries that way.
And Milwaukee's gone downhill, believe it or not. They're actually owned by Black & Decker now, but they, whatever, it is what it is. Everybody's kind of downhill from where they were. But anyway, the big thing with that is also you can get the 1/4-inch impact driver. If you're like putting in screws, framing something, you want the impact driver over the regular drill, because that drill, you're going to burn up the battery in like every half hour. Whereas the impact, I can go for 2 hours on the one battery and just be laying screws all day long. Yeah. Just saying, secret of the pros right there.
Yeah. One thing I learned pretty early on, and, probably most of you guys know this, but there's different numbers for the screws, for the bits. You want to use the right bit for the right screw. Otherwise, you're just going to tear up those bits and going to be swapping them out. And every time you go to run a screw in, it's going to make that sound where it just is spinning around inside the screw and tearing everything up.
Yeah, exactly. But even when you think you're buying quality, who knows what you get anymore? It is finding the right stuff that, that makes sense. But anyway, we're good with carpenter tools. Just I have a lot of tools to cover. I don't want to.
Yeah. All right, let's move on.
I know you're the carpenter guy, and I hate to, to shave off that. But so the next thing I would say, let's jump into like forestry tools. I mean, if I did say homesteader tools, and homestead tools, that's going to mean a chainsaw. Now, my go-to, I got to say, I mean, I like steel. They're made in Virginia Beach. They're more expensive, but they're not a lot more expensive. The one that I've been using is, I think the Wood Boss. I think it's like $350 for an 18-inch chainsaw. Might be, $4 now. I don't know. But you can use other things. Husqvarna's had good and bad. I've had good experiences with Husqvarna chainsaws. I've had bad experiences with them. And you can buy like the Echo or whatever the junk at Home Depot is. And to be honest, if you're never using it, probably not that bad. But it's nice when they start. I have mentioned before, one of the big things is if you buy the synthetic oil mix, they last a lot better. That makes a big difference. I know I buy cheap weed whackers, and I was throwing them out every year because I couldn't keep the damn things running. And then I was like, oh, when I buy better gas oil mix, spend the extra $1 there, it made those cheap things keep going. I use just, Home Depot, Lowe's, $100 weed whackers. I've never bought steel or something for that. A chainsaw, I want it to work,
Right. And another thing to do to keep in mind is those chainsaw blades. You can sharpen the blades. It's a huge pain in the ass. You should have a second replacement blade in your shed, wherever you keep your chainsaw equipment. You should have a replacement blade.
With chains, I know Steel sells them. They're about $40 each. I go on Amazon and I can buy some junk no-name brand for 3-pack for $38. So a 3-pack is way better than, one. I got to say, I've noticed that the sharpness is about the same. They seem to last about equal. I mean, I'm sure there's different brands and you can do, different things, but I've done pretty good. You can buy some pretty cool chainsaws. The next one I'm moving into is, I think I was just looking, 519. The Farm Boss from Steel is like 20-inch you can get for 519. So it's funny because I was looking on like Facebook yard sale marketplace to buy them, and they all want like $400 for used, and I'm like, they're 400 or 500 new. Like, why am I? So
but I mean, if they hold up,
they do hold up. So another thing there. The next thing that I actually just discovered and has been a new thing for me is a chainsaw mill. Now, a chainsaw mill is for like cutting the boards. And at first I was scared off on these because I was like, you got to go slow. And it turns out it takes forever to, but it basically is a frame. You lay a board on top of the log and then you can kind of go through. If you're cutting the right type of wood, they work great. And what I mean by that, like something soft like pine or like that, you could slap out boards all day long. Now, if you're cutting oak or something, you're kind of like burning through a chain when you do you can cut one beam and your chain is done. But if you're doing pine, you probably get 8 or 9 boards, You can get chains sharpened. You can obviously do it yourself. I know a lot of you guys will be like, I'm manly, I can do it. I don't know. I know where I was. I used to have a guy who did it for about $8 a chain. And I bought a bunch of the China knockoff chain. And I would take like 8 or 9 to them at once, have them doing it. That kind of stuff. Another thing I've seen too with the chainsaw mills, and this is actually new to me also, is they have where you set a board on it and like screw in a track and then you can cut it and cut like the edge off boards. And I haven't bought that one. I'm curious about it. But anyway, different stuff like that. I know my house came with one of those giant, like 2-man giant saws, like you see it at when you go to Cracker Barrel.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting to try that out next, but I haven't gotten there.
Just got to find another man.
Exactly. It'd be me and the wife out there, and who knows. Another thing would be a axe, a quality axe. Is worth something. I like a Forester axe, which is like a medium size kind of, I don't know, seems cool for me cutting down like 10-inch trees, whatever. Believe it or not, a good quality sharp axe. And that could be your axe from Home Depot. That's not good quality, but it could be that axe, but you're going to have to spend some time sharpening that if that's what you get and make a commitment to it. You might buy other axes that come sharp in quality, and that'll really work out. For property management, then, as I'm on the property, bigger property for a while, all of a sudden I need a pole saw with the little electric chainsaw thing on top. Then I actually have one of those little battery, like 8-inch junk made in China chainsaws that's great for, here's a little limb, here's a whatever. And, that just makes it easy. Honestly, a lot of times when I'm cutting shrubbery out of the bushes and crap like that, that's where I'm using that, little hand nothing. And just cutting a branch here and there. You don't need big, ridiculous all the time, but having a quality chainsaw matters.
Yeah, I know when I split wood, a lot of people split wood with a maul. I just prefer a wedge and a sledgehammer. It seems like I have less issues when I do that.
All day. And smaller wood, they have those little frames where it's like it looks like a plus sign in the middle of a circle, and you set it and hit it with a hammer. I do that all the time with a sledgehammer. Going to sledgehammers, let's talk about farm equipment. What do you got there? Like, as far as like farming, like, putting stuff in the ground. What are your go-tos there, Kevin?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I've got a multitude of shovels. You know what I mean? About 18 different types of shovel in my garage right now. It's kind of becoming a problem. But there's a lot of stuff that I use frequently. The potato rakes. Those are those 4-prong.
Yep.
4-prong rakes. And I'm drawing a blank here. You put me on the spot.
Right.
There's those hose that are, do you know what I'm talking about with the where you pull the weeds out? What are those guys called with the little on it?
All right. It's called a stirrup hoe.
Okay.
And it's basically like a horse, like a stirrup you have riding a horse that you'd put your foot in. And I got to say, you run it back and forth over the ground and it just pulls all the weeds right up without actually having to put the pressure that it normally takes to, get through the wood. You could go pretty cheap with those as long as you keep it sharp. I bought better quality. My wife does a lot of farming out there. And honestly, in the position I'm in, I have more money than time. I don't have a lot of money. I just have more money than time because I have no time.
Right.
And so to me, it's like, well, you know what? I'd rather buy something that's going to work and do it right when I go out there. Same thing. It's like I have a tractor. I wouldn't have a tractor if I had tons of time. Right. But I don't have tons of time. I need to get volume done in quick. Hose. There's a brand called Rogue, Rogue, that makes some really quality hose. There's one that looks like a triangle that really I've been great with weeding or more, maybe I should say my wife has been great with weeding with and really getting in around the plants. But those hose are like $100. And I understand you can go to Lowe's and buy a $20 hoe. Again, money and time. But I will say, if I go buy a $20 hoe at Lowe's, I'm out there with the grinder and spend the time sharpening it right out of the gate. You really gotta, take care of it. And if you keep that tool sharp, it's going to work. Plus,
and I would say that,
yeah, go ahead.
About almost all farm tools and gardening tools, a grinder and a good file, to keep those things in shape.
Exactly. Honestly, knife sharpeners, and I have like an axe stone and then a million different knife sharpener sets, and learning how to do that and use that makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
Another tool I use in the garden all the time is a digging fork.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of like a pitchfork, like think 4 prongs, but I do have to keep getting beefier and beefier because I keep breaking them on my wife and she doesn't like that. So the one I buy now is like one piece of steel from handle to the end, because we've tried the wood. It weighs 40 pounds, but what happens is apparently if you use it like a normal person, it's no problem and they last. But if you're like digging in concrete, I mean, it's not really concrete, but the clay in my ground can kind of be like that.
Yeah.
I'll jump on it, work it in, and then I'm like, and turning it back and forth and really working it. And when I do that, I find that it really takes some effort. And what'll happen is the wood will start to separate over time from where it connects to the fork itself.
Mm-hmm.
So, do what you can do with that. Now, sometimes
I will say,
screw through it. And,
in my experience with Chuck doing stuff, he definitely manhandles a lot of shit.
I make the world bend to my will, Kevin. That's the answer. But no, you're 100% right. And that's, I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to buy you a new one. Let's just, and now mind you, the new one is like the one I use, not
right.
She could use the ones that I already broke, and we won't talk about that part. There's another tool called a broad fork.
Mm-hmm.
For gardening. That's where you have the handles on either side. And then it's kind of like a rolled hay fork kind of, but you basically step on it and press it in. Again, another tool that I'm kind of not allowed to use because they're expensive. And if I step on it and do it, I'm like, get in the ground, break it up. And she's like, you can take a lot, but you can't take that much earth at once.
Right.
And I'm like, yield to my will, and it doesn't always work. I don't know. Those are my like big go-to. Obviously there's some good hand tools, but there's a lot of little shovels, and I just thought it'd be hard to, talk about the different aspects. And, rakes, you got to kind of figure there's the dandelion, like weed hooks, those little things. There are tools that make things a lot easier in the garden that I'm sure, you guys know more about than even I do.
Yeah. Pitchforks are a big deal for me. I use it for turning over the compost, which is great. And, if you have birds, if you have, chickens or whatever, and you're haying their pen, it's something that comes in handy when you got to clean that stuff out,
Yeah. Yeah, obviously a pick, or there's another one called an adze, which is like a pick, but the blades are angled the opposite way, kind of. It's kind of weird. Just saying.
Yeah.
Something you might. And also, again, another tool you want to actually keep sharp. If you keep that sharp, it's basically like an axe. Again, maybe I'm using it the wrong way, but I'm just saying. My next big thing is, and again, this is all budget and time and everything. You don't start out and blow your budget, but if you can get a quality tractor with a PTO, that's something. It's funny. Everybody had told me at my level and my size farm. I mean, again, it's all about what you're growing. My big thing is, I bought a subcompact tractor, which is basically, I don't know, it like 25 horse, which doesn't sound like a lot, but turns out you can do a lot with a 25 horse. And I have like a little bucket on it. The picture I'm showing on the YouTube is not mine, but that's basically what you got. And I got to say, my buddies were all like, get pallet forks for it. And I've bought them and was like, oh, it's a waste of money. I don't think so. And it was funny. I even got around to finally buying them, and I didn't use them for like the first 3 months. And now I can't do anything. So one, if you're doing woodworking, cutting trees and moving stuff, pallet forks, awesome. You got to pick up that chicken coop and move it to a new area. Pallet forks are awesome. You get a delivery on the farm, pallet forks are awesome. I put everything on pallets. So it's just, pallets are free everywhere. And I just go pick it up. If I do a job, I work some kind of weird hours where I'll have like 4 hours to do work in the morning. And then I need to clean up everything and put it away. I have a lot of mornings I can get stuff done, but I don't have big stretches of 8 or 10 hours. So the thing with that is I can run out, start doing a job. All my tools are like a workbench on the pallet, just sitting there next to me while I'm framing and doing stuff. And then I throw everything on there and drive the tractor back to the barn. Cleanup is like 3 minutes instead of, I got to get all the saws put away.
That's smart.
I just drive it away and it's in the barn and everything's good. And I go to work, and tomorrow I just drive it right back out. I don't have to worry about rain or weather or whatever. I don't know. Kind of cool. As far as implements, the only thing I use all the time is a tiller. To break up the ground. A tiller is awesome. Everybody was like, you need a brush hog and whatever. I never use it. It takes up a lot of space in my barn. It was good, like when I first got the property, to claim new land, right? Like a brush hog is awesome. You go cut like trees, kind of like you hit it with the axe and then you're cutting down the stumps a little bit. And I'm talking about, 3-4 inch. I'm not talking about like big stumps, but you can cut down some good stuff with a brush hog. But the, things like that are awesome. I have things like a bottom plow, which is like that big blade they used to take with the horses on Little House in the Prairie. I have one that I can pull behind the tractor. It'll break up dirt, but it's rare that I'm digging that deep. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I found one used on Marketplace for like $100. I think I ended up cracking the back window of my truck because you want to really tie that thing down when you're moving it. That big hunk of steel, it turns out, is a little something. But I was on my old crappy truck. I cared a lot less back then. But you know how it is. Then you also, like, I've gotten like spikes for digging trenches. There's a lot of cool things like that. But find the stuff that you use. Look at Marketplace. Look at what you can buy. It's how it goes sometimes. What else for like a tractor? I guess that's it. A quality bucket. I would say 4-wheel drive is probably important for a tractor, for like that. For lawn cutting, I made the mistake of, I have a big yard. Like I probably cut 3 acres of grass, which is a lot. I bought like a 48-inch ride-on mower and paid like $2,500 like an idiot. Cause I was like, I want something that's going to last. And now I kick myself every day that, I could have spent another $1,000 and got like a 0 turn and, done a lot better.
A lot of time. Yeah.
A lot of time. And I was an idiot on that one. But in my mind, I was like, I can't spend that much money. And it was like, I got a new property, but I hate that I spent as much as I did. I should have spent $400 on a used one and waited and got what I wanted. Again, that's a lesson learned, but now I'm still putting in the hours on the little ride on, which again, 48-inch, I can still do it in like 3 hours, but
right.
It's
still 3 hours.
Still 3 hours. So the next thing I would say is taking care of your tools. Or do you have any more you wanted to drop? Any other tools?
No, that's fine. That's fine. And honestly, we could have just ended the show with cleaning up the tools, WD-40. That's all you need. That's the only tool you need. Just get WD-40.
One of the things I find is you could walk around my yard. It's like January or whatever. You could walk around my yard and find some rakes and shovels out. And those handles don't like being out in the weather, turning gray and old and dry.
Right.
And it really does shorten the life. And it's like throwing money in the garbage, when you don't take care of things, because those handles dry rot and they just turn to crap.
Right. You go to dig something and the handle just cracks on you.
One, keep it in a nice place, out of the sun, out of the weather. Two, I bought one of those wall hooks for the barn, made a big, it was like $8 or something. And you can hang all the tools, makes a big difference. One, they're easy to find. They're always in the same place, and it keeps them up out of the way. Now, the next thing is take care of those handles. So linseed oil, tongue oil, mineral oil, any of those. If you kind of clean up the handle a little bit with like sandpaper and then put the oil in once a year when you're putting stuff up for the fall, you will buy so much more. And if you're spending $100 on a hoe, then
you're going to want to take care of it.
You're going to want to take care of it. The next thing is, like I said, every year I sharpen all those tools, tools. I'm out there with the grinder, and then sometimes the stone, depending on how much I use that tool, or, the wife uses the tool and how much we like it. Something to consider.
Yeah. Now, let's talk a little bit about, some hand tools you can get for the kitchen, for, the house,
I like it.
I've been shopping around looking at grain mills. Pretty easy to get, easy to use. I don't grow grain. You can buy it in bulk, unshelled, and you save yourself a lot of money. Coffee grinder. I know that Chuck is a big fan of the coffee grinders.
I'm a big fan of coffee. I gotta say, I for years was coffee grinder guy, and now I just Black Rifle Coffee.
You get it pre-ground
up to my house pre-ground, and I'm like, I still spend too much money on coffee, but and I have to point out, I had to drink some kind of like 8:00 coffee or some crap this morning and ruin my whole morning because the delivery is taking too long or something. I don't know, something with the weather or who knows. I just know I had the wrong coffee and things are a little on edge.
I got for Christmas a couple years back, I got this Jack Daniel's coffee, and tell you, I'm not a fan. It just tasted like I was drinking coffee with Jack Daniel's in it, but there was no Jack Daniels. Like it tasted like Jack Daniel's, but there's no actual alcohol. So, I mean,
it kind of took away your joy a little bit.
Ruined it. I could just put Jack Daniel's in my coffee, and that would be, that would give me the benefits of it.
That sounds about right. I don't know. Just thought, take care of your stuff. But the big thing is you do yourself. If I was trying to save money and trying to save time on jobs, keeping your stuff organized and just knowing where stuff is, like I have like a tool set in the barn. I have a tool set in the truck. I have a tool set in the house. And it's because I'm always like back and forth. Where is it? Is it in the barn? Is it, I got to go get that thing. Put stuff in the same spot every time. Take the extra minute to put it away. We have these like little runs for my chickens, and I keep a ton of extra zip ties to keep, just for any project that comes up. Because turns out if you buy it from Amazon, some China junk or whatever, it's a lot cheaper than, now again, there is different qualities and weights to zip ties.
Right.
Turns out you have to kind of look for what you need for the job you're doing. But I know that like a fox or something will come and fight on the chicken wire coop. And I'm like, crap, I got to go get zip ties and tie it all together. I tie it all up, but I stop and I go back and I go put them back where they go. Because that stuff matters, because then they're there the next time.
Right.
Otherwise, you end up with junk and you're buying it again. I have 3 freaking Tinder chargers for, charging a motorcycle battery or that kind of thing. Because I keep losing the damn thing. And then I find it and I'm like, oh, there it is. And then I write on the box, Tinder charger, or whatever, tender, right? Battery tender, whatever. But that's how it goes sometimes. So don't throw your money away buying the same stuff. Another thing that I do, I would point out is I buy screws and nails in bulk. I buy the 5-pound at a minimum when I go. I understand that's money, and when you're just starting out, that's not maybe an option. But if you can buy your screws and nails and stuff, if you're like, I'm gonna use this over the next 3 years, you should be buying the 5-pound and not the one. If you're doing projects all the time, buy your screws in quantity because it matters. And also prices do fluctuate on that a lot. So pay attention. But
yeah, I'm a big believer in buying the bulk. I can't tell you how many projects like doubled in time because I went at and couldn't find the right damn screw that I was looking for. You know, no 2.5 inch screws. I got to go all the way to the store to get them just to finish up the project.
Even worse, you're using a 3-inch screw where you only need a 1-inch screw. Right. And you're like, now I'm just throwing away money because I'm putting in twice the screw that I needed. Right. Turns out they sell it by the pound, not the screw. So if you're using twice the amount of screw, that's a problem. So anyway, I just thought if we kind of prepared you and it gets you thinking about organizing and taking care of the stuff you have, if we can prepare you a little bit, might save you some money. And I got to say, it's one of the things of being prepared is having the stuff on hand. I know when we were talking before we recorded this, me and Kevin were talking and we're like, just having motor oil, the kind that you use to add to your car when you need it, or radiator fluid, or windshield washer fluid, having it on hand and also buying it at the price that's, ideal instead of being stuck.
Right.
It helps. So being a little bit prepared and ahead of the game, you could really help your budget is all I'm saying. But, again, obviously all this stuff costs money and it's time. And maybe if you buy it in advance, you can get the price that you're looking for. There's obviously tools out there that I don't have that I wish I did. And just it's time. But if you start looking and are aware of what you need, you can kind of get there a little bit quicker.
Right. A couple of things I want to throw in there that you should have around the house, just in case, is a fuel siphon. Comes up every once in a while, Every once in a while, you need that. You need to suck the fuel out of something. You need to put it in a can and put it in something else.
Take it out of the neighbor's car, whatever you got to do. Right.
There are battery-powered ones. There are hand-powered ones. I know, if you buy the $10 fuel siphon, it's going to work like a $10 fuel siphon. You need to spend a little bit of money if you're going to actually be using it. Another thing that I'd like to keep is bolt cutters. With my job, I end up going to a lot of different locations. And if you don't have a key to get in and you have to drive all the way back somewhere, sometimes it's easier to just replace the padlock and cut that thing off.
Especially
get the big ones. Don't get the, it's $25 for 12-inch bolt cutters. You're not cutting shit with that. You need the big 3-foot handle, bolt cutters to actually cut a lock off. All
right. Secret of the pros.
And also, keep rope and cordage on hand.
Yes, I like
anytime you're cutting down a tree, it's good. You get that little kid out there and put him to work. Just pull on it. Just keep pulling it. Keep it from falling on your fence.
Right. One of the homestead things is I keep lots of fence. If I have the money in the budget and stuff at the time, whenever I buy fence, I buy extra, like I buy the size that's going to matter,
right.
And that I can kind of get away with some. Having fence to put something up as things come up. If you're homesteading, that really makes a difference.
Yeah.
Just keep that in mind.
Yeah. Keep 3-foot and 4-foot welded wire, rolls of that in the garage. Cause it comes up, chicken pens and gardens, anything like that. I've like I just mentioned, I've dropped trees on my garden fence, 2 garden fences and a chicken run. So, it's easy when you can just roll out, 5 feet of that thing and patch it up.
That's it. Not that long ago, I had to drop a tree on a fence. And I'm like, I'm going to do what I can do to make this not happen, but I can see it's going to go on that fence. Right. And I knew it before I did it. I'm like, this is what I can do here because it's going to.
Right. There are only so many places
going to go there. And
yeah,
well, that was it. I mean, I looked at other options. I could have made it fall in other directions, but they weren't better options.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah,
and
it's
I
better
was
than
like,
dropping it on your roof.
right. Exactly. You know, so, but you do you. So just, having options is nice. And that's really what being a prepper, is all about and doing that. So anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe. I really, that helps us out, grows the channel, that kind of stuff. But appreciate you guys sticking around. I know it's kind of a long one, and you guys are awesome. So questions, concerns, show ideas, email us at preppingbadass@gmail.com. Otherwise, I would say stay safe, and we will talk to you guys next week.